Hello, welcome to chapter 6 of mapping and functions. I'm your teacher today, Aram Nyondo. So this is lesson 2. It's a continuation of what we covered the last time. So tinagambia na zambiri into last time in our lesson 1. For example, tinagambia na what are relations. So we discussed what are relations. And we looked at the examples of relations, with human relations, relations between things, and we also have relations in mathematics. We also discussed mapping using arrow diagram. Also, we discussed the meaning of domain, range, and function. So today our main focus will be we're going to focus on the types of mapping or relations. So what are these types of mapping and relations? So the first one is one-to-one mapping or relation. Actually map many to one mapping. H3 one to many mapping, and finally many to many mapping. So by the end of this lesson, aliyense azitha kufotokoza mitundu imeneyi ya mapping or ma relations, komanso azitha kupasidwa arrow diagrams azitha kupanga identify one to one mapping, many to one mapping, one to many mapping, and many to many mapping. Alright, then tiyambe. So tiyamba ndi ya one to one mapping imeneyi ndiyophwekerapo pang'ono because we pang'ono tinakambirana mu lesson 1. Alright, let's look at the definition. We said we're saying one to one mapping is when each element in the domain, remember what a domain is? So domain dimene makhala input elements atu maps onto only onto one element in the range. So remember the range in dimene makhala outputs mwatu. So we're saying when each element in the domain has been mapped onto only one element in the range, that's a one-to-one. So a good example, we are having a table of values of the line equation y is equal to x plus 1, and remember there is always an arrow, and we need to be able to define what that arrow means. So whenever we see an arrow on examples of example of one-to-one mapping, it means corresponds to. So let's look at an example of one-to-one mapping where we are using the table of values of y is equal to x plus 1 equation. So this example, so these are the x values and these are the y values. So these are values, x muli -1, 0 and 1, and these are values of our y values, many muli 0, 1 and 2. Remember, this is the domain and this is the range. So this is our domain and this is our range. So when you're saying one-to-one mapping, if we map each element in x onto one element in y, so if we map them like that, alright, it means each element in our domain is mapped onto only one element in our range, which is our y values. So when we map like this, it means this is a one-to-one mapping. It doesn't mean kuti zimaenda amene tikuonera apa kuti ma arrows. The arrows can go either way. So because of our case, since it's a line equation, remember a line equation, remember it's y is equal to x plus 1. That's why we are showing them like this. But we can have a situation where the arrows are going like this. But the condition is, remember the condition is saying one element in the x, one element in the y. It means one element in the x must be mapped onto only one. So meaning tisapezeke element uku imene yanyamula ma arrows awiri olo atatu, chimodzimodzi uku kusapezeke element imene yalandira ma arrows awiri olo atatu olo more than that. That's the condition. Uku element imodzi nyamule arrow imodzi, element imodzi ikumanenso ndi arrow imodzi. That's the condition of 1 to 1. Let's look at the next type of mapping. Now, let's look at many to one mapping. So, poyamba paja timangana 1 to 1 mapping, where one element in x imapangidwa mapped onto only one element in y. It means even y amalandira so element imodzi yoka. Amalandira arrow imodzi yoka. Ukuso oku ma x amakhala so ndi arrow imodzi yoka. So many to one mapping. Two or more elements in domain. So we're saying two or more elements. That's where the main is coming from. Two or more elements in domain maps onto one element in the range. So you could say ndia 1 to 1 about kuti we have got more elements in the domain amene akupita pa onto one element in the range. So we have got many arrows coming from the domain amene akupita pa element imodzi mu range. So in our case it's like we are seeing something like this. So in our case it's like we are seeing something like that. So meaning this is our x and this is our y, and the arrows are going that way. So we have got two or more elements in the domain that are mapped onto one element in the range. So it means my elements angapo oku kwachuka ma arrows angapo aga amene akakomana pa element imodzi y. So many to one. What are we saying? We're saying many arrows from x, our domain, converge on one element in y. So we have got many arrows in the domain amene akomana pa element imodzi in y. If you notice that, even itakhala kuti mwachisanzo there are only two, let's say two or more. That's the condition, two or more, or even only two, which means that's a many to one mapping. Let's look at an example. F is a set of townships and G is a set of districts. And the arrow, remember if I've got an arrow there, is defined as is found in. So remember, always define the arrow. Arrow is current meaning. What is the relation? How are the elements in X related to elements in Y? In our case, how are the elements in F related to elements in G? Always dinner to forokoze ubale between the two sets. So let's look at this example. Many to one mapping. Alright, so tili ndi set ya twija ya ma townships. Awa ni ma townships Sochi, Chikanda, Likuni, Mbayani, Lunzu, and Manja. So these are our townships. And the G is a set of districts: Zomba, Lilongwe, Blantyre. So if I'm going to map, so zikutengera kuti ine madera ndokwadziwa kuti amapezeka mudera lanji. So I will use that knowledge to map between the two sets. Alright, let's say tiyambe ndi Sochi. So Sochi is found in Blantyre. So this one is found in Blantyre. Chikanda is found in Zomba. Likuni is found in Lilongwe. Mbayani is found in Blantyre. Lunzu is found in Blantyre. Manja is also found in Blantyre. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 arrows converging on one element in the range in our G set of districts. So many to one mapping. So we have got arrows coming from our domain converging at one element in the range. So that's why this one is called many to one. So we just have to look at the direction of the arrows. The arrows, there are many arrows converging at one element in the range. Many arrows converging at one element in the range. Many to one mapping. Now let's discuss one to many mapping. So we're saying one to many mapping is where many elements in the range are for one element in the domain. So many elements in the range for one element in the domain. What are we saying? We're saying there are many arrows from the range, which is our Y, converging on one element in X. So we have got elements that are coming from this side. So it's like we are seeing elements are coming from the Y. So many arrows from Y converging at the one element in the domain. So range, domain, range, domain. Many arrows from range to one element in the domain. Kumabweichula, we are saying one to many. We always start with the domain. Input, then output. Input, output. So let's look at an example of the relationship between set of F, where F is a set of grades obtained in mathematics test, and G is a set of names of students, and the arrow means was obtained by. Now let's look at this example. One to many mapping. So we're saying these are grades A, grade B, grade C, grade D in a math test, and these are the names of students. So if you were to show relationship here one to many, if we're going to show one to many mapping, so this is our range, and this is our domain. So for example, looking at these sets, let's say we say there's an arrow there, an arrow there, an arrow there, and then we have got an arrow there, and then we also have an arrow there, an arrow there, then an arrow there. So remember, the direction is always that way. All right, so let's look at how the arrows are moving. So you can see the arrows are many arrows from here are converging at one element. So we have got this arrow, and this arrow all converging at our element D, and we also have got this arrow and this arrow, they are converging at the element C. So many, one. If we want to pronounce the mapping, we always start with the domain. That's why it's called one to many, one to many, like that. Now tikambira name many to many mapping. So what is many to many? So tunena kuti many to many, one, it's many elements in range for one element in the domain. Tukumbukira kuti this one, it's what type of mapping? Many elements in range for one element. So we have got in many elements in range for, so it's 1, 2, many. Many elements in range, many elements in range for one element in domain. Can I also remember many to many is many elements in domain. So we have got many. Remember, always timayambira domain to one element in the range. So tanthauza kuti chani? Tanthauza kuti many to many mapping is one to many and many to one combined. So ziwiri izi zikapanga combine zimapanga many to many. What does that mean? It means timakhala ndi many arrows from y converging on one element in x, komanso timakhala ndi many arrows from x converging on one element in y. It's like we have got two things happening. Tikhala ndi x watu y, it means we have got this happening, and if this is a x and y, we also need to see this happening. So it's like we're having one element there, many elements there, one to many, many elements there, one element there, many to one. When all these are found as a relationship between maseti metapasidwa, that type of mapping is called many to many mapping. Let's look at an example. In the example, F is a set of multiples and G is a set of factors. So remember, we must always define our arrow. So our arrow is means is a multiple of. So remember what are multiples? Remember our factors. So my factors ndamena matayamusirana, and the answer ya my factors yakatayamusirana is what we call the multiple. So for example, if we say 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So 6 is a multiple of 2 and 3. So 2 times 3 are multiples 6. And these two are what we call factors of 6. So these are factors and this is our multiple. Let's look at the example. We have got the multiples in set F and the factors in set G. So if you start with 18, its factors are 3 and 6. 20, 4 and 5. 21, 3 and 7. 24, we have got the 4 and 6, and also 3 and 8. 28, we have got the 4 and 7. So remember, the arrows always face this way. Like that. So now that we have demonstrated the mapping, are we able to identify what describes a many-to-many mapping? Remember, in a many-to-many mapping, timafunika tikhale ndi one to many komanso many to one. So let's check. Tikaona 18 ali ndi 1 18 2 120 2 121 307 24 ali ndi 3 and 8 komanso ali ndi 4 and 6 28 ali ndi 4 and 7, like that. So you can see here one to many yakwana. Now, do you have many to one? Now, let's check from this point of view. Tikaona 3 uyu, we have got 3 arrows converging at 3, so 1 many. 4, we have got again 3 arrows converging at 4, so 1 many. The same goes for 6, the same goes for 7. So 1 many, many to 1. Finally, let's discuss the following questions, whether we can identify the type of mapping given. What type of mapping are we given here? Let's identify it. So, how do I identify it? Remember, look at the arrows. The trick is with the arrows. If you look at from the domain, always remember which one is the domain. In our case, this is the domain and this is the range. So from the domain, you can see this is 1 and this arrow is going to many. So it's 1 to many, 1 to many. Therefore, this is a 1 to many mapping, because if you check for this one is 1 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 to 1, but this one is 1 to many. So therefore, this is 1 to many. Let's look at another one. What type of marking are we given here? Tita one is we can identify. Now, if you look at it closely, again, we're saying the trick is the arrows. Let's start from the point of view of our domain. Always start with the domain. So from the domain, we're saying we have got this one, Jane, only one arrow coming from starting from Jane. But Mary has got 2 arrows. So Mary is 1, we have got 2 arrows. So 1, 2, or 1 to many. So there is 1 to many there. So we have identified that there is a 1 there, and we have a many from these 2. So 1 to many. But it's not only that. Let's look at it from the point of view from the range now. You can see from the range here only it's receiving 1 arrow, receiving 1 arrow, receiving an arrow, but this one is receiving 2 arrows. So one element there is receiving 2 arrows. So 1, again, we have got the 1 element there receiving many arrows. So what type of relationship? Many to 1. And again here we had 1 to many. So do you remember? mapping imene imakhala ndi both many to one and one to many. It's many to many.